after the news roundup.
Typhoon Mangkhut leaves a trail of destruction across Hong Kong. Ping Fa Chun and other parts of the city are inundated with water. And the Education Board suspends Monday classes. Good evening. Hong Kong experienced its biggest storm so far this year. Hurricane signal number 10 was in effect for most of the day as winds from Typhoon Mangkhut lashed the city. The storm has now been downgraded to a number 8 southeast gale or storm signal. Also, the amber rainstorm warning has been canceled. The storm is now forecast to move west-northwest towards the inland area of western Guangdong. Chinese media report at least 2 people have been killed there. While the typhoon is departing Hong Kong gradually, destructive winds are still affecting parts of the territory. And the Education Bureau announced classes at all schools in the city will be suspended on Monday. And we now take you to a housing estate in the Eastern District that was severely battered in the storm. Residents there tried but failed to keep the seaside estate dry. Pinky Wong was there and filed this story.
Feel the force of Mangkhut. It inundated Hang Fa Chun's waterfront promenade. Flipped benches, uprooted trees, turned sidewalks into streams. Waves were so powerful that even those on the 4th floor didn't go unscathed. But how do residents on higher levels think of this storm?
This typhoon is much stronger because as you can see, the whole of the road and the bus stopped overflood. And I feel my house is a little bit shaking. As you can see, the clock is trembling.
Even when indoor, it's not always easy to keep things dry. The flat owners has placed newspapers and multiple towels to prevent water from seeping in from the balcony. Water levels rose quickly throughout the day. Rescue teams found themselves having to walk in high waters through the severely flooded site. Strong gusts of wind, high waves, and backflow of seawater also made reporting on the ground level difficult. Despite measures to stop seawater from flowing into the underground car park, which was completely submerged during another typhoon last year, things don't seem to look any better this time.
Staying at home wasn't much of a choice for those in low-lying areas. Residents in flood-prone Lei Yun Moon were evacuated thanks to police assistance. Christy Lung with details.
Waves crashing on the shoreline of Lei Yun Moon. The place was severely flooded when Typhoon Hato hit last year. The local Tin Hau temple by the sea couldn't escape from the storm surge. The weather was so bad that at one point, reporters were asked to leave with ropes and hooks being used as safety measures along the way. Staying indoor isn't always safe, as the shelter may be exposed under the stormy weather. Firefighters were deployed to the scene to evacuate residents. They took with them a rubber dinghy just in case. Heavy rain and storm surge caused the water level at Tolong Harbour to rise to 4.5 meters above chart data, as the Xingmun River in Sha Tin overflowed its banks. Heavy rain turned Tai O into a swamp. Though wooden boards were put in place to block water, this grocery store was flooded. It was a similar story for the neighboring shop. The whole family spent most of the day trying to save their valuables. Dozens of elderly people were taken to a temporary shelter for safety reasons. Christy Leung, TVB News.
The storm also affected electricity at thousands of households and wreaked havoc across the city. Here's Kana Chu with more.
Talk about an unobstructed view. Here's one on the 23rd floor of a flat at Lohas Park in Changwon-o. A couple found their master bedroom window shattered in the storm. The wife said it was lucky they were no longer in bed when the window broke not long after 8 a.m. Strong winds also ripped windows out of this waterfront building in Hong Kong and brought down the slab of concrete wall in Tai Kok Tsui. Look no further if you need evidence of Mangkhut's strength. The crane at a construction site collapsed. This rooftop storage house was just left hanging in between two units of a building on nearby Pak Hok Lane. Police sealed the surrounding area. No one has been sent to remove the structure, which was apparently set to be taken down 2 weeks ago, but never happened. Here's an expert's view on building safety in Hong Kong.
All building elements in Hong Kong have to withstand the wind pressure as specified in the Hong Kong wind code. And this time, typhoon has not actually exceeded the code requirement. The shattering of the window actually is a little bit complicated in technical terms due to some tunneling effect. It depends on the cases. I think that it needs to be investigated.
As winds picked up, the number of reports of fallen trees jumped. In Wan Chai, this section of Gloucester Road looked more like an obstacle race. That's after multiple trees toppled on a normally congested road. In Kowloon Bay, firemen were called in to cut a fallen tree into chunks for easy removal. Traffic was also affected after fallen timber forced all southbound lanes on Lion Rock Tunnel Road to close earlier today. Kana Chu, TVB News.
A total of 889 flights were canceled today. Local airlines plan to gradually resume operations on Monday. However, some flights will still be affected.
Even though Hong Kong O may lower the signal after the lifting of the typhoon from Hong Kong, we believe that unstable weather will last for 1 to 2 days. So passengers have to check the status with the airline, confirm the seat before they proceed to the airport.
And while Hong Kong got battered by the storm, Macau also felt its effects. The city was so flooded that you could speed through the enclave's narrow streets on a jet ski. Low-lying areas saw floodwaters of up to 2.5 meters. In a rare first, casinos were closed down in the gambling mecca. Schools were also ordered closed, as were government departments. The death toll in the Philippines from Super Typhoon Mangkhut has risen to 64. Most of the casualties so far from landslides. And the moving earth has reportedly trapped 40 miners. This as rescue efforts are underway on the main island of Luzon. Jeff Tang with details.
Mangkhut came and Mangkhut went. After slamming into the Philippines' northeastern coast early yesterday, the biggest storm of the year tore through agricultural regions along the coast. It ripped off tin roofs, knocked out power, and left a trail of death and destruction in its wake. Philippine National Police said around 24 people had died from landslides in the northern Cordillera region on the main island of Luzon and in nearby Nueva Vizcaya province. Luzon Island is a region filled with flood-prone rice plains and mountain provinces vulnerable to landslides. A baby and a toddler were among the dead along with their parents after the couple refused to immediately evacuate from their high-risk mountain community. Authorities warned the death toll should rise further due to the high number of people that remain missing. About 87,000 people had evacuated from high-risk areas, and officials advised them not to return home until the lingering danger had passed. Philippine Red Cross rescue workers saved a stranded mother and her toddler from flood-swept areas in western Luzon's Pangasinan province. In the capital city, a massive cleanup effort had been underway this morning after Mangkhut's fury left piles upon piles of trash along the shoreline of Manila Bay. Mangkhut, the Thai name for Southeast Asia's mangosteen fruit, is considered the strongest tropical cyclone to hit the region this year. It packed gale-force winds of more than 200 kilometers per hour, on par with a maximum Category 5 intense hurricane in the Atlantic. Jeff Tang, TVB News.
In the United States, Tropical Storm Florence continues to drop epic amounts of rain on North and South Carolina. The death toll has now risen to at least 13. Our Alan Booknia is tracking that story.
Florence's intensity has diminished since hitting landfall Friday as it continues its slow march over 2 states, crawling at about just 5 kilometers per hour. After buckling trees and buildings with winds of up to 150 kilometers per hour, Florence is now bringing its double whammy. With up to 60 centimeters of rain having fallen in some places already, rivers were swelling to record levels, and residents were ordered to evacuate, as the next few days could bring the most destructive round of flooding in North Carolina history.
More people now face imminent threat than when the storm was just offshore. I cannot overstate it. Flood waters are rising, and if you aren't watching for them, you are risking your life.
Volunteers with boats had to rescue hundreds who ignored the evacuation warnings.
Yeah, the water's moving pretty good right here, so it's pretty dangerous to take a vehicle over this. It could actually sweep a vehicle away with only 2 feet of water.
They did awesome. If not, we'd be stuck upstairs for the next how long, I have no idea. But I'm very grateful, and I thank every one of them for their service.
This couple did spend the night in a shelter, but came back to inspect the damage to their house.
This morning I got up and I said, I'm getting back to the house, and we walked this thing chest deep, holding hands down the middle of this road, and we made it to the house.
We're going to have to redo the whole inside.
About 676,000 homes and businesses are without power in North Carolina, and another 120,000 in South Carolina. Authorities also warn of further risks of landslides, tornadoes, and flash floods. Alan Booknia, TVB News.
NASA has launched a satellite designed to precisely measure changes to the Earth's ice sheets, as well as glaciers, sea ice, and vegetation. Jeff Tang tells us more.
With global warming and irreversible climate change becoming more of a pressing issue than ever, scientists at NASA are desperate to learn more about how to deal with the problem before it is too late. A Delta II rocket carrying the Ice, Cloud and Land Elevation Satellite 2, known as ISAT-2, blasted off from California's Vandenberg Air Force Base shortly after 6 a.m. on Saturday. ISAT-2 carries a single laser altimeter that measures height by determining how long it takes photons to travel from the spacecraft to Earth and back. NASA's Earth Science Division says the mission will help scientists better understand how the ice sheets of Greenland and Antarctica contribute to rising sea levels. The melt from those ice sheets alone has raised the global sea level by more than 1 millimeter a year recently. The satellite's orbit will take 91 days before repeating. This allows the device to measure the same locations 4 times a year, so scientists can observe seasonal changes. The mission is a successor to the original ISAT that operated from 2003 to 2009. Jeff Tang, TVB News.
Over to Texas, where a U.S. Border Patrol agent has been charged with murder.